Hello everybody, welcome back for StarCraft 2 action. We have Trigger going up against ShoWTimE on Oceanborn in a best of 3 part of the Bellum Gens Elite 2024 tournament. And we are in the upper bracket, and I think the winner moves on to play against the winner of the previous series. Small spoiler, Raynor. Let's see what happens here for this PvP. We see high ground walls because there is no ramp on Oceanborn at your natural. And ShoWTimE does go out for a scout. Whereas Trigger, not gonna scout. Maybe he's going to scout later on after second gateway, or he is doing something blind. Trigger going for a faster second gas. So we'll see how that comes into play. ShoWTimE gets a slightly later gas. Could be the difference between 2 Adept opener versus like a Sentry Stalker opener. Only 2 on gas for Triggers so far. He actually took the gas, but he hasn't been mining from it. So I guess a small optimization could be that he delays it in the future. But this is very safe from gas steals, as those can be quite annoying. If you've played PvP yourself before, especially if you're not like super familiar with PvP, getting your gas stolen feels so annoying. Because of course they steal your gas but also block your natural, you know? And you're just like, what do I do with all this mineral money? What do I do? It feels bad. Double Adept versus Double Adept. Okay. Gateway Research online for both people. They both have 1 Chrono Boost. Let's see if we can see where those are going to be spent. Both players trying to see what comes out. Trigger starts Stargate. It's like, no way ShoWTimE is coming into my base anymore, because he's too afraid of the units that I'll use. 2 Adept into 2 more Adept. Other side of the map, same is happening for ShoWTimE. These Adepts are quickly, swiftly bolting across the map here. Now Trigger not showing his Adepts, actually waiting for ShoWTimE to cancel his pylon. Now these 2 Shades are going into the natural here of Trigger. But 2 more Shades are about to finish. What is happening here? Do they see each other? They did. ShoWTimE did see these Adepts going across the map. Shades, of course, can't pass through other Shades. That's how the Spirit Realm works. You should know that. You watched Avatar. And look at that. ShoWTimE catches 1 of the Adepts of Trigger. And now is up 1 full Adept. Trigger going for the Phoenix. And is stacking them up back at home. ShoWTimE just goes for later tech. Oh. Actually, 2 Adepts from Trigger do get into the main base. We do see a couple probe kills going down here. That's 4 probe kills. Might get a 5th. Gets a 5th. Oh, there the gas of ShoWTimE is. I was like, where is his gas? But he made 2 sentries. That will give him full scouting information of the fact that he might lose a couple probes to some Phoenix in this game. Now we do see Blink coming out for ShoWTimE. Still hasn't seen anything, but is probably going to be pretty happy that he started up the Blink upgrade. 4 Adepts are moving on in. Oh my god, they get into the main base, but they don't complete their Shade. They're like, nah, we don't want to sacrifice ourselves to the Phoenix gods. And 1 Adept does get lifted up. I mean, still gets full access to the main base. Yeah, I can't imagine him not finishing this Shade. 5 Adepts in the main base. That is going to be some juicy probe kills here. There are 2 Adepts shading on into the main base for Trigger as well. And he's going to get a couple probe kills here onto ShoWTimE. 5 probes did go down on Trigger's side, but 5 also went down on ShoWTimE's side. And Trigger gave away a whole lot less Adepts for that, but more Adepts do shade in here for ShoWTimE. Gets 1 extra probe, and that's it. Yikes. kind of want to get a couple more here, but these Adepts might survive. One of them will. And what are the Phoenix up to? Phoenix get into the main base. They lift a Warping Stalker. And they do kill a probe as well. 1 Phoenix, 2 Phoenix take a little bit of hull damage. Ooh, this Stalker out here on an adventure. Another probe does go down. Yeah, Phoenix do a lot of damage to probes. Holy moly. And Trigger is now up in probes, but ShoWTimE is looking for a third base a little earlier. He does not have the money. He's banking a lot of gas as well here. We see Blink coming up for Trigger now. Blink did complete for ShoWTimE. Yes, it did. Look at these Phoenix. It's uncontested, but it's just 3 Phoenix. That's just not that much. But still, ShoWTimE behind in probes, and he's been leaking probes all game long. 14 probes have died for the side of ShoWTimE. And that just means a lot of money has evaporated on his side. It's kind of like Stonks, where, you know, ASML reveals their quarterly income a little bit too early. And your market cap just drops. Is that the right term? I don't know. I don't really know anything about the stock market. I don't know. I just know it's where big people go to gamble. You know, adults with disposable income. Try to save for their pension, but I guess it works. What's also working is that ShoWTimE got this early third, and it's up. He's even up in probes. But he has had to sacrifice his army count for that. Let's see if he's okay in the gateway department. Only has 2 gateways as well. ShoWTimE. Trigger. If he pulls the trigger, might just crush ShoWTimE here. Utterly and completely. Almost doubling the army supplier. We do have 1 shield battery. And a couple sentries. We even see a robo coming up, but this is just too much. I think ShoWTimE had to take a risk here to try and get back into this game after losing so many probes. But Trigger's not going to allow him the opportunity. Not even taking a third behind this Trigger. Deciding that he wants to punch as hard as possible. And ShoWTimE's still in this game, but 26 army supply versus 46. That's quite the discrepancy. The probes are pulled off the line once again to fight this oppressor that is Trigger, but I mean, it's a numbers game here. It's Stalker versus Stalker, and we even see a couple Phoenix here. Yeah, sure, we have shield batteries, but the nuclear battery was already committed. The first Immortal is about to come out, so maybe, just maybe, but the third base seems to be completely forfeit here. Another pylon going down to try and power this shield battery, but it does not have any juice. Blink onto the Stalkers, and the Stalkers blink out from ShoWTimE. We do have this Immortal now. The third base does get completely clicked down by Trigger, but this Immortal, yes, you blink on it, you click it down, you don't allow it to gain any value over time, and ShoWTimE is forced to GG out as his Stalkers float up to the surface, and Trigger takes the first game of this best of 3. And for game number 2, be sure to like and subscribe. We load up into Goldenaura. Trigger now up 1-0. ShoWTimE needs to win 2 games back-to-back in an attempt to win this series. And I realize one thing. I've been talking about it for a couple series now, is that we are playing blue into green instead of the normal blue into red. And as I was finally accepting that I needed to add a whole, like, if you look at my thumbnails, I have like these, like the Terran logo and like the Zerg logo and whatever, and I have them like preset. I can just turn them on and off in my file with blue and red because I'm used to most people playing those colors. And then every time somebody else played a color, I would like customize it a bit and then change it back to the original color. But now I finally caved. I was like, okay, I'll make a set of green ones for both sides. And then I was like, oh, the logo, the Bellum Gens Elite logo uses blue and green. And I think that's why they probably ask the players to play blue and green. So it's not just because they want it to be different, it also makes sense that they chose these colors. I don't know if that's correct, but it feels correct, sounds correct, tastes correct. Now, we see double gateway openers on the main ramp once again, and makes sense. Double Stalker for Trigger versus the Stalker Sentry from ShoWTimE. Trigger planting down a pylon, ShoWTimE planting down a pylon at their opponent's base, and Trigger, again, hesitant to reveal his units here. Trigger does not finish up the pylon. ShoWTimE also does not. Maybe we'll see people not do this in the future? Like, ShoWTimE's pylon makes slightly more sense, because then they can't cancel the units. I don't think you'll ever do that, and make an earlier nexus. But if you don't put it against the ramp, like say these were adepts, this pylon does not have the vision range to see the whole ramp. So adepts would just walk by. So both of these pylons had different purposes. Or I guess still similar purposes, because if you want to expand, these units have to attack that pylon to get your nexus down ASAP. 3 sentries though, plus a stalker versus the 4 stalkers of Trigger. And we already have a shield battery, so we're gonna be fine here on ShoWTimE's side. Now you don't know what's behind this. There might be 2 more stalkers coming in. There might be a proxy building. And let's see what happens here. Nothing much. That gives us an opportunity to see if ShoWTimE saw a lot here. He actually saw that gateway. He saw the nexus coming as well. Okay, so ShoWTimE knows what's up. He's not too afraid of a proxy robo because he did see that natural being built. We see a robo on the side of ShoWTimE against a Twilight console for Trigger. Trigger probably going for Blink because he just already has a bunch of stalkers. Could be that he goes for DT Shrine, but I think as soon as he recognizes that there's a robo on the side of ShoWTimE, he's probably just going to play it safe and go for Blink. Yeah, if you're going to rush DTs, guessing this Twilight console's down a lot earlier. And because of all the sentries, you know the hallucinations are going to scout. So if you want to go DTs, you have to build it near a proxy pylon. Somewhere out on the map, I think. And the first observer is out. Siege is on up, gives it extra vision range. And oh my god, Trigger now also has some sentries. Could try to force field some units out of ShoWTimE's base. Could use Guardian Shield to trade a little better, but 2 shield batteries chock full of energy. That's hard to fight into, but Trigger is patrolling around here, making sure that no third base is taken too early. And we do see 400 minerals here for Trigger, but no nexus as of yet. 3 gates for Trigger, and only 2 for ShoWTimE, just like last game. ShoWTimE does not like making more gates before his third base is up, and perhaps even running. Both players throw down their third bases. We see a Forge for Trigger coming down again, just like game number 1. He's going to get that +1 attack a little bit earlier. Now, Robo into Twilight. We've seen it time and time again, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Robo very shortly for Trigger as well. Look at these hallucinated probes from Trigger. Look at that. Just getting that extra scouting information. Just confirming where the army of ShoWTimE is. Templar Archives, okay. So there is no Robo. It's just going to be Archons and charge. That it is interesting. I guess you know that ShoWTimE does not have the capability of making DTs, and so you kind of feel fine. Don't want a robo. 2 Immortals already, though. Like, we need to see that Charge Slot Archon materialize quick for Trigger to, like, hold this attack? Is this an attack? 4 gateways are about to finish. Blink, almost done. So I guess ShoWTimE could make a run for it. He can use force fields very effectively. Oh, but we do have the Archon. That Archon is going to make sure that these force fields don't do what ShoWTimE just tried to do. He tried to lock Trigger out of his own natural there. Cool move, but... not move. Ooh. Feedback on the sentry. Don't see that every day. Very cool. Dude. I like Trigger's response a lot here. Seeing how many sentries ShoWTimE had, but is cool also good enough. We do have a robo for Trigger now, but there is no Immortals on his side of the map. Oh, that's a lot of probes coming off the line here to make sure that this attack is held. The first Immortal is taken down, and it does get taken or picked up into the War Prism. War Prism stays alive. This Immortal is fighting to the death. Bunch more Stalkers being warped in here by ShoWTimE, and all these probes are slowly but surely being picked off. Now charge slots do come into the mix and take down, or at least tank a lot for the rest of the army. Blink Stalkers did blink forward, take down the War Prism. Now the blink forward from ShoWTimE. A little bit too overzealous, because the Zealots do get on top of this Stalker force here. And the last Stalker there, a nice pick off by Trigger. And that's, like, the best moment for the Zealots to come in, right? The moment your opponent blinks forward with the Stalkers, and then your Zealots are like, it's free real estate. I can just charge in and you have to keep running away, because otherwise I'm going to murder all of your units. Now let's look at what's happening here. Both players have +1, +2s coming out for Trigger. Both players 3 bases. A little bit more army supply for ShoWTimE. And ShoWTimE has 1 more gateway. Also, he used to be up in the unit count when the robo is concerned, but actually Trigger killing all of those Immortals in the previous fight. Actually pretty good trade for Trigger overall. And now Trigger does get a 4th base down. ShoWTimE does the same thing. I would want to favor Trigger here because he has a bit more various army. Like, the variety of his army is higher. He has Charge already, he has Archons already, and also is going to get +2 slightly earlier. Wow, the chrono boosting of ShoWTimE, a bit more on point, and he's catching up in the upgrade department. But ShoWTimE is still ahead in army. Trigger now catching up in the worker supply, and everything seems to be evening out. Oh my god, look at this Zealot force. Jesus, 21 Zealots, dude. And now Charge is going to complete. It's kind of funny how you just move them around, and if they're still slow, you're like, okay, I don't have Charge. Instead of clicking on your Twilight console or like pressing like F2 or F1, whatever you have for your main Nexus, you just move your army a bit, and if you're like, oh, my Zealots are fast now, like, okay, I have Charge. Of course, it also shows up, I think, in the top left, or in the middle left in-game. You get, like, a little upgrade complete thingy, but in the Observer there on the right, oh my god, a big Zomboid run-by onto the 4th base here. But Trigger is in position, has already killed the rock, so he can maneuver back and forth. Doesn't, like, lock himself out of his 4th base. But ShoWTimE has a bigger army. Both sides have +2. How are we doing on the Immortal count? Trigger has 4 Immortals versus the 1 Immortal of ShoWTimE. I'm really, really digging the army of Trigger here. He has double the amount of Archons. Like, 4 Archons is a pretty good amount to deal with these Zealots, but is it enough? Or do you need Colossi? Like, anybody who played Wings of Liberty is like, wow, where are the Colossus? Those would be so good. And they were pretty good in PvP especially. But now that they mostly deal with light units, They just aren't the same anymore. ShoWTimE goes into the main base here with a bunch of zealots in the War Prism. He can unfold his umbrella, warp in a bunch more charged zealots. +3 attack on both sides is starting. And ShoWTimE, with all of this, well, distraction, is actually not doing a lot. I guess it's a bit too scary to walk up there, but he is going for a 5th base. So the long game might be his. We already see a disruptor being built for ShoWTimE here. And Trigger can start doing the same. A second robo is underway. So both players now maxed out. Trigger has slightly more workers, so a slightly smaller army supply max. And a D2 Shrine also going down. Trigger moves on in here with a very large immortal count that now finally starts firing. Look at these immortals. And Archon's just going to town onto this zealot line. But the Archon's actually stopped firing. He's moving back a little. The nuclear battery keeping ShoWTimE healthy there. I feel like a lot of zealots died there, and the Trigger did a good job of trading, but as this first disruptor shows up, you suddenly have to, like, tuck tail and go back home. A 5th base is being established here for Trigger as well. Some more zombies from ShoWTimE arrive at the 4th base. And this is going to be a bit of a weird game. So many bases, both players maxed. Or they could max out. And then they will start banking up money. They almost have all of their upgrades. But for now, just a normal late game position. No Stargates have been added yet. We see both sides adding the DT Shrines, adding the shield upgrades. Only one forge on both sides. And wow, both armies kind of walk into each other in the middle of the map. Bit of a random fight. But we do have those 7 immortals. Or Trigger. How many does ShoWTimE have? Only 1. Wow, ShoWTimE is not an immortal believer in this matchup. He believes in more balls, more disruptors. And ShoWTimE comes in from 2 sides, blinks in, like just starts hugging the army of Trigger, and the disruptors are very far away. But it seems not. Oh my god, the disruptor. Oh, what a hit in the back. Gets the zealots, gets the sentries. Now bruises the immortals as well. And Trigger, that feels bad, does get one of the disruptors, and his immortals still pretty high DPS, but now there's no more frontline. And zealots are being warped in to try and tank for these immortals. One of them does get picked up. Disruptor Blast only gets 1 zealot there. And finally, the disruptors of Trigger himself are arriving. 2 disruptors into 3. Mamma mia. The gold base being taken here by ShoWTimE, and that feels like he's taken pretty big edge here. Although he has slightly lower supply, does have the +1 shields ready. He has Blink, or DT Blink coming in. Shadow Stride. My DTs transform into Aragorn Striders. Oh my god, what a mess of a fight here. Disruptor balls going each which way. And the disruptors of Trigger do go down. Trigger does target down the Nexus here. And it looks like he wants to recall out. Yes, he bunches up all of his units and recalls on out of there. Has 4 or 3 zealots and a stalker and a war prism here. Could start to harass the different bases. Dude, move, move, move. Because you don't want to fight this army right now. If this, you can just drop your stalker there and then start dropping the zealots. Could even warp DTs in there and then walk, like fly in there. I think this war prism has so much potential. But of course he does not know that. He's a bit strapped for cash. And does start +2 shields. The DTs are running around. Trigger takes the other corner base. The gold base is being recaptured, and ShoWTimE didn't really get a lot of opportunity to mine from that yet. Well, we do see 1 DT warped in there now, but Observer at the ready. Lots of probes going down to the DTs of Trigger here. Trigger does have the DT blink, but it's not going to do that much with these observers with speed. Wow, Disruptor Blast gets the DT there. Very cool. Oh my god, another move from Trigger here, trying to click down this Nexus. He does manage it, but all of these units probably just... I don't know how you say it in English. It's like painted to die, but... in Dutch it works. Gedoodverfd. But in English it doesn't work. I thought it did. Now ShoWTimE has a way larger army supply. Is this going to be it? Trigger, though, does have enough disruptors to kind of keep his defensive posture. He has 3 of them, 2 more being chrono boosted out, hopefully. Well, they are at least being built. But ShoWTimE has 6 of them, thanks. 5 DTs here, just chilling. Oh, lots of DTs running around as well. It's kind of a crazy game. So, of course, as a caster, you say that shit a little too often. Wow, this game is crazy. This game is kind of whack, especially Trigger just, like, YOLOing into bases and trying to kill them. Oh my god, these DTs are going to take down another base. Oh, the blink in. Tries to kill an immortal, but then also very successfully dodges all of the disruptor shots. These DTs are going to go down. Bunch of probes are going to go down. Another DT run by, but now on the other shoe, or the shoes on the other foot. And these DTs are somehow even getting a couple stalkers as well versus Trigger here. ShoWTimE out to 50 workers. Which that would be okay if he had a bank, but he doesn't. So he has to kind of remake those probes. You want to go up to 60, 70, 75-ish maybe even. Trigger showing us that, I mean, 85 is also fine. I'm an old head, so I feel like that's one of the things that really, like, clearly changed over the time with StarCraft is over time it was more okay to have more workers at any point in the game, basically. Whereas there's even games where people have 100 workers. Even Terrans do it. It's like, that's crazy. It used to be 66 drones swarm host, if anybody remembers the Snoot quote. Dude, the green and the blue are not doing so well for my eyes, but apparently ShoWTimE overran the third base here and is taking down this base. I can try and up the contrast a bit more. I think I was already maxed, but we can try. On the other side, DTs are crushing this base. The bottom base is being taken down as well. And chaos has ensued. We are in chaos. Chaos is here. And can we return to order? Order. Oh, zealots get on top of this Archon, but don't get the surround. Warcraft 3 player no more. Oh my god, that Archon gets insta-surrounded though. We do see the nuclear battery instantaneously gets taken down. Bunch of probes here. The army's over here. And ShoWTimE takes down the last outer base of Trigger. Trigger only has his natural and main remaining. Whereas there's still a 4th and even a 5th for ShoWTimE underway. The Disruptors zoning away the other Disruptors. Riveting gameplay. And both players don't really have a mining base right now. ShoWTimE's natural's pretty much done. Never mind. The 5th, or the new 3rd, has completed for Trigger, and that, or for ShoWTimE, which means that Trigger has to try and get in there. But ShoWTimE has more army supply. We have some probes here. Maybe those can make the difference. And ShoWTimE is moving on in. These probes can hold position and stop a lot of the zealots, but instead he's almost blocking his own army almost. And the disruptor shots from the back make it very difficult for Trigger to survive this fight, going down to 50 supply. There are more disruptors, and I mean, you need like the best hits of your life to maybe hold on here. Does have a couple probes, can start long distance mining, maybe get enough money for another Nexus, but still needs to somehow deal with this 85 army supply. Chonker of an army that's coming out from ShoWTimE here. I mean, if Trigger had like a War Prism and I think 6 or 7 Disruptors here, then maybe I would have hope. But instead he has 3 Disruptors that he has to consistently escort with the rest of his army. And he gets overrun. And Trigger has to tap out there. ShoWTimE takes game number 2. And we go to a deciders match in this best of 3 to see who stays in the upper bracket and who falls down to the lower bracket. And here we are for game number 3 between ShoWTimE and Trigger. This is the deciders match. And it goes to Riveroo. And I figured out why this blue versus green doesn't work for me in this matchup specifically. It's because the shields and the health bars are also blue and green, which makes it very annoying. Even if you turn on like team health bar colors, it doesn't help at all. It's really annoying. I did up the intensity, so the team color intensity up to max. I think I was at 8 out of 11, so now we're at 11 out of 11. So the units become a little bit more blue and green, but in the end it's just going to be kind of a like pixel lasagna of units. And it's also the same units. I don't know, maybe the team colors make it slightly better, but we're just gonna have to live with it. I think for this matchup, for the mirrors specifically, and especially the Protoss matchups, where they always have the blue bar for the shields, we should have maybe considered some different colors. Like a different color scheme would have been nice. Like if you see those, I mean you saw it just now, if you see the 10 and 11 zealots just running into each other, the DTs are even worse because they're like slightly translucent and always slightly blue. It's like, I just couldn't see. I had to like hover over and read the name. Otherwise I wouldn't know. Okay, we see a probe being recalled back into the base. And the shield battery keeping the probe of ShoWTimE stuck. Both players going for a double stalker, and first blood goes to Trigger here. Kills a probe. Does not ahead a probe. It feels bad. Double sentry coming out. Whereas Trigger's going for 1 extra stalker and not 2. Huh, what is he up to? He has a lot of gas, dude. Maybe he thought he started a sentry. But this seems like he wants to do exactly what he's doing. 3 stalkers into double sentry. Goes for Twilight Console. And we also have a Twilight Console on the other side of the map. Oh my god, what is ShoWTimE doing here? Look at this. It's like this whole path for the adepts to go through. If Trigger blinks into his main base and he's at his natural, he can never get back. This seems like a terrible wall. This seems garbage, is I think the technical term for it. There's a Roddy wall. On your... I don't know, this gives me the creeps. I don't know what you guys feel, but I guess he wanted to make his Twilight Console. And if you look at this pylon, he can only make it here. Maybe he can make it over there. But I don't know. That gives me the ick, if that makes sense. It's just, ugh, what the hell? But Trigger's wall is also a little weird on this map. Maybe Ghost River's a little weird because this gas just is a little close to the ramp, making it hard to make buildings in certain places. Or maybe it's just the nerves. Trigger slightly up in everything right now. Both players going for blink. Both players have 2 gateways. ShoWTimE, wow, look at this. He's completely making sure that no probe can scout if there's a third base. Any other unit can basically scout, but the probes, nuh-uh. They going down. But also, ShoWTimE knows where the army of Trigger is at any moment. Oh, wanted to switch here. Oh, ShoWTimE does see them coming. I think it takes my colors, because I play with light blue and red. So it doesn't, like, take the colors that the players use. Oh, the Adepts do get into the base. Nice body blocking there by ShoWTimE with the Stalkers. Even uses Blink to further body block. Only one probe goes down so far. 2 probes. And this one Adept does survive. But so far, ShoWTimE gets a slightly earlier third. Oh no, actually, Trigger. Put it down earlier. Robo Forge into just a Robo. Into a slightly later Forge. And both players just content going into a regular mid-game here. Let's see what comes up. We can actually test if I go to ShoWTimE's vision, or Trigger. This is ShoWTimE, yeah. It's light green is also the colors I use for my minimap. So it takes my settings and not the settings of the players, which that would have been interesting, right? Just seeing which settings players use when it comes to colors and shit. But I guess you have to go to their personal streams. I still remember that I watched Stefano's personal stream, and I saw that he had changed the minimap colors for himself, and I was like, huh? You can do that? And you can. And for some reason, I disliked the regular green, because it was just... I don't know. Didn't work as well for me on some maps. And with creep or so, I don't know. I just liked the lighter green a bit more. And the very, very, very red, you know? Like the deep reds. I like that. But I can see if you're colorblind, for example, you want to change those colors. So that's super great. A lot of pros also play with colorblind options on. Because the building grid changes a lot. And some of the units change a bit. But it's mostly like the building grid, I think, that changes. But I personally don't do that because I didn't see the need. But that's, I think, blue into orange. But you can also do it yourself, just customize it. StarCraft is really good. Like the UI of this game and all the options that you get. The UI and the GUI, I suppose. Oh, what did he cancel, sneaky bastard? Maybe it was a DT shrine, because it got scouted and then he went back. Trigger trying to move in here, like butting heads here, but ShoWTimE up a lot of workers here. Army supplies looking pretty equal, and he can retreat up this ramp. Oh, that observer got sniped. We have an immortal here for Trigger, whereas no immortal for Mr. ShoWTimE here. He does have a robo, just hasn't built an immortal. Or it died already and I missed it because I've been yapping a bunch. Which is the term for talking they use a lot in the Yu-Gi-Oh community right now. Maybe it's just internet community in general, but... or culture. Trigger has all the vision he would ever want here with this observer. We also have a War Prism for instantaneous reinforcements. We see zealots, and they already have charge. The zealots are trying to run into a base here. ShoWTimE has to really work for this defense here, because he has no vision, mind you. Like, look at this. This is all the vision that he has. But, I mean, it's better than I expected, honestly. The 4th base does get cancelled. Like, this is what I mean. Like, look at the vision that he has. He moves in, he sees the army, he's like, okay. This observer, so key. Because if this ramp ever, like, lets a couple zealots through, he walks in again. Both players are going for +2. And nice kiting back here by ShoWTimE. He's 37 of those Stalker boys. So he has a lot of blink potential here and a lot of peel, as they call it in a League of Legends, I think. Which is basically just like getting away from your opponent. But they talk about it in team fights a lot. Which I think is interesting because we don't really use that term in Dota. And I do play a lot of Dota. Oh my god. Big blink in by Trigger. Some force fields coming down as well. Trying to defend against all of these zealots. Do we have charge? We do have charge for ShoWTimE as well, but he's elected not to make a lot of zealots here. I guess those zealots can really get caught. As soon as they charge in, they're kind of like sitting ducks. Because they get one charge. After that, it goes on cooldown, and if you're on top of your opponent, running away versus your opponent's Blink Stalkers and their charged zealots and their force fields, that's not going to be fun. So, charged zealots, maybe not the best defensive unit, although they do tank very well. They have pretty high HP for their cost. I mean, they're melee units. You would expect that, but Zerglings did not get the same treatment. I guess you still get a lot of HP value out of your money for Zerglings, because you get 2. Look at these big blue and green blobs. I'm glad. I feel like we see slightly more difference now. Whoa, big blink in by ShoWTimE here. Instant force fields come down from Trigger. And we see more Immortals in the back here. Just wailing away at the Stalkers of ShoWTimE. We do have a nuclear battery, but it can barely reach anything. Now the blink back, it does get a couple Stalkers to re-up them, but these Immortals are very low. Wow, get taken down, the Zealots. Slicing and dicing. And ShoWTimE musters a defense. Meanwhile, still upgrading, is even ahead in upgrades. And is now starting up the Disruptor production, has a robotic support bay. And is even slightly up in probes. I think Trigger's base was up slightly earlier. But I'm so impressed. ShoWTimE, like his macro under this type of pressure is insane, dude. I feel like Trigger fell slightly behind in the macro during all of that aggression. Even though, like, you would normally favor the aggressor, which I think is the hallmark of a good game, where if offense is slightly easier than defense, then most players are going to try and be offensive, and so you get interaction. It can't be too easy, because then everybody goes all in, poker style. It's just, oh, I have aces. All in. Let's see, who goes for a 5th base first? And as I say that, ShoWTimE is moving on out to the Lambo base. And double Immortal production here for Trigger. Does he have a robotic support bay? No, he does not. Okay. He's not moving into Disruptors. We already have 3 Disruptors for ShoWTimE, however. I'm very surprised Trigger's moving in here. 4 Disruptors. Like, when I play PvP, I feel like the game is so over when Disruptors are out. It's like, well, I can't attack anymore, because if I don't pay attention or my army is too slow, then I just get blown up. Oh my god, these Immortals, though, they are shredding all of these Stalkers. We do have a nuclear battery, but, and normally I would say that is enough. Big counter blink in. Now he starts targeting down the Immortals that don't have their shields anymore, and these charged zealots did trigger a bunch of those shields. And now these Disruptors are going to get their shots again. And nice hit. Oh, the blink forward gets another Immortal. More Immortals are coming in. But ShoWTimE gets ahead there in the army supply. He's kind of hoping to see a big Zealot run by for Trigger, but that was a big assault from Trigger. Trying to just, well, I don't want to say blitzkrieg, but just kind of force his way through the wall. But the wall stands tall. The Titans won't get through. Even though there's Titans in the wall, it's a bit weird. Both players have +3. ShoWTimE continuing to upgrade, whereas Trigger has stopped upgrading. Trigger, he's sweating, okay? Mom spaghetti, knees weak, arms heavy. I feel like Trigger kind of feels like he missed his opportunity to kill his opponent, and now, if he starts upgrading again, he's gonna fall further behind in the army, and then die. But if he keeps investing in his army, which aren't Disruptors, he might still lose. But at least there is a chance. 8 Immortals, like 1 miss blink. All these Stalkers should blink in. I think all of them instantaneously explode. 2 more Immortals underway, dude. How many has he lost? 9 already. 9, and he has 9 on the field. That's 18 Immortals already. 2 more. I think Trigger has an Immortal problem. I think he's, you know, just a little bit addicted. They are pretty cool units. I mean, they have shotgun arms. What can you do? They walk like crabs. They almost do the fusion core dance. Not quite, but kind of do it. And they got the Gangnam style dance, if you slash dance them. Which, as I think about it, that, like, culture reference becomes more and more dated. I mean, obviously, that's kind of the definition, but I think most StarCraft players still know that reference, but anybody getting into StarCraft might not know, like, the Psy Gangnam style song. Like, if you're, like, 17, 16, 18 right now, and you're like me, when I was that age, and you hear about StarCraft, and you're like, huh, it's a game for smart people. It's a hard game. Only, like, the real gamers can play this game. You feel like, oh, okay, I guess I'll play this game now. And then you see the Immortals dance like that, and you're like, okay, it's a weird dance. Lots of DTs coming out of ShoWTimE here. Does he have the blink? He does have the DT blink. How many disruptors does he have? 8 disruptors into 11 Immortals. These DTs, dude, they are on a mission to snipe a Nexus, and I think it's gonna happen. And that is going to put Trigger in a very difficult position. Look at the DTs go. They're just walking in. They blink on top of this cannon. Snipe it down. A lot of probes go down in an instant. They one-shot probes. And Trigger goes for the recall, but does not have an observer. Maybe it was a blind... No, it can't be a blind recall, because if you just click all your Nexi and recall, I think it's the nearest Nexus from where you recall that recalls. So he had to click that Nexus. He just missed the observers. Maybe he thought one was already moving in, but he doesn't have observer speed. He was researching it. It's almost done. And Trigger now has his own disruptors. 3 disruptors. So this game is going to go longer. But is it? 20 probes went down. Almost 50 probes for Trigger. He has to make a bunch more probes to really keep having an income worth anything. ShoWTimE is baxed and starting to build a bank here. Look at that, he's adding more gates, he's adding another Nexus, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is the one that starts adding Stargates in the future, if that happens at all. I don't know how good that is in PvP. I mean, they can't get hit by disruptors. Oh, luckily Blink was there. So that would have been a lot of Stalkers. Going down Trigger. I think you need to risk it for the biscuit and take that last base as well. You probably have workers, like, around. Yeah, that want to mine that last base. Yep. Fleet Bacon, 2 Stargates. Where is it? Hello? I click it, but then... Okay. Stargates, all at the 3rd base. Interesting position. I guess it's nice that he doesn't build literally everything in the main. Because if there's a Warpism there, or a bunch of DTs, you could lose a lot of your infrastructure. Your units are also at the front a little earlier if you build them that close. Trigger, though, has survived. Has a pretty nice army supply now for himself. Kept up in the upgrades reasonably. Now look at the shields. +2 shields already. Shields apply to buildings and Stargate units as well, which is, like... If a Stargate transition is anywhere near reasonable in a game, I feel like shields are great. They work on cannons, they work with shield batteries, obviously, so you have almost always more shields on a unit than health. So I love shield upgrades. I think they're so good. I see the appeal of the first armor upgrade because I think it's cheaper. And some units, like the Zealot, have more health. Like, they literally have 100 health and 50 shields. Oh my god, big run by here. Even 2 disruptors from ShoWTimE, forcing Trigger to really do something here. Nice kill on the Fleet Bacon, but a lot of infrastructure from Trigger's also going down. ShoWTimE kind of putting himself into a corner here. Not going into the army of Trigger. I mean, this is a lot of Immortals, and they get to fight Blink Stalkers. That's the dream. Pure Immortal versus pure Dreams, Blink Stalker. Dream Stalker. That's a cool transformation. That could be a name of one of the Stalker iterations that you could do in a RTS form that I have brainstormed at some point, never made a video about, but we don't have time to go into that right now, because Trigger is going on top of ShoWTimE's army here. I mean, he could make... Oh no, all the Stargates are down. I was like, well, just make Void Rays, but... Punish, dude! ShoWTimE so giga-punished for not building his buildings in a little bit of a safer place, and Trigger, with all of these Immortals, is actually pushing the agenda here, but... No more presence of ShoWTimE on the side of Trigger. He does still have a bunch of Disruptors, though. And some Zealots do get caught out. The army supply is favoring ShoWTimE, but not all of his army is together. If the Disruptors don't hit, they're almost wasted supply. One Disruptor here for Trigger could ninja in the back here and get a nice juicy hit, but instead, he's going to ninja into a bunch of Stalkers. Like one of your invisible heroes in Dota 2, just walking into a stealth revealing ward into the opponent's army that's standing on top of the ramp. It's always on top of the ramp. Oh, big blink in from ShoWTimE. Kills the only pylon. Artosis, are you watching? Bunch of probes now do go down as they get pulled into the fight. One Disruptor does get a bunch of hits here. All the Disruptors of ShoWTimE are forced back because of the army of Trigger coming in. A big sandwich action is happening. We have 2 more Immortals remaining. They are targeting down these Stalkers pretty well. The blink in on top of the Disruptors, and we also have some Zealots joining the fight. Big Disruptor hits kill units from one of the players, and it looks like, yes, ShoWTimE is doubling the army supply of Trigger here, is winning out in the economy battle as well, but Trigger's bases are more healthy. Do you just build Observers, Stalkers, and DTs now as Trigger? I don't know how many gateways he has, but only the 8. And there is at least 3-4 Observers here, so maybe that doesn't work. We do see one Disruptor coming out, but the Robo is in the main, and this is why ShoWTimE built them at the 3rd, because if this happens, you're sad. You want to spread out your production. Trigger is building a bunch of Zealots, and they are gonna move into the army here. The Blink Stalkers blink away, and 2 Disruptors here for Trigger. They hit a bunch of the Zealots. That was a nice hit. Oh my god, the Disruptors both get hit by the Disruptors of ShoWTimE. So 0 Disruptors left on this map for Trigger. And, I mean, again, this is kind of like game number 2, which is a crazy one. And ShoWTimE now sending out some zombies to go nibble away at the rest of the infrastructure of Trigger. And Trigger tries to rebuild, but he can't quite get it done. Trigger GG's out, and ShoWTimE actually takes that game number 3, moves on to face Raynor, which is a treat. Last time I think I cast those players, ShoWTimE forgot a certain base was on the map. So I had a pretty good thumbnail as well. If you haven't seen that, go back for it. I think it's Homestar Cup 24. ShoWTimE versus Raynor. That was a banger. That was really cool. Super late game, I think. Or, yeah, I think super late game. I don't know if they win end game. But guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, even though the colors were a little difficult to see. Maybe with like the processing and the artifacting that comes in from me encoding the video and then uploading it to YouTube and them re-encoding it might make it like a pixel mess. But that's the risk we are gonna take. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.